Your office is on the 14th floor of a glass tower on Lime Street, 2 minutes from Lloyd's of London. You have a view of the Gherkin and a coffee on your desk that cost £4.50. You have a bill of lading in your hand that you have read 3 times, and each time you read it, something in your chest pulls tighter. The vessel is called the Maritime Star, registered in Valletta, Malta. Flag of convenience. The owner of record is a shell company called Adriatic Crest Logistics, registered in the British Virgin Islands. You know, without needing to check, that Adriatic Crest Logistics is owned by another company, which is owned by another company, and somewhere at the bottom of that chain is a name that appears on a list maintained by the Office of Financial Sanctions Implementation. You are 38 years old. You studied law at Edinburgh. You have been at Halcyon Maritime Associates for 6 years, specializing in cargo claims, total constructive loss assessments, and sanctions compliance advisory. Your billing rate is £420 an hour. You have a 2019 Audi A4 and a gym membership you use twice a week. You are good at your job. That is the problem. The Maritime Star disappeared 11 days ago near the approaches to Novorossiysk in the Black Sea. In October, when the weather off the Caucasus coast turns fast and swells can reach 4 meters in under an hour. The vessel sent no distress signal. Its AIS transponder went dark 40 minutes before the reported incident time. The claim is for $14 million. Undeclared cargo. Storm damage. Total constructive loss. You tell yourself it is not your job to be suspicious. You tell yourself that AIS transponders fail, that undeclared cargo is a billing discrepancy, and that paperwork never perfectly matches reality in international shipping. You make the call. The man on the other end has a voice like a closed door. He does not introduce himself. He tells you the classification should be meteorological event, and the file should be closed before the December account cycle. You ask about the cargo manifest. There is a pause. It is not a long pause. It is exactly long enough. He says, the manifest reflects what was declared at the port of origin. You understand. You do understand. That is the problem. The surveyor's report arrives at 5:47 p.m. It is thorough. It is professional. It describes wave heights consistent with a Beaufort Scale 7 event and hull stress fractures consistent with prolonged heavy weather. It describes an orderly abandonment consistent with IMO emergency protocols. It does not describe the radar data you pulled from the Novorossiysk Port Authority's public feed. The radar data shows the Maritime Star sitting stationary for 3 hours before its transponder went dark. The satellite imagery shows the vessel's last known position 11 nautical miles east of where the claim says it sank. You close the satellite imagery tab. You reopen it. You close it again. You approve the preliminary claim assessment and mark the file for secondary review in the standard 45-day cycle. You do not flag it for sanction screening. The reason you give yourself is that the registered owner is Maltese, not Russian. The paper is what matters, you tell yourself. The paper is all you are paid to evaluate. That night, you eat dinner alone in a restaurant in Clerkenwell. You order the lamb. The waiter asks if everything is all right, and you say yes, it's wonderful, and you mean all the ordinary people around you talking about ordinary things. You do not taste the lamb. You leave a 20% tip. You walk home past the canal. The water is dark and still and reflects the orange of the sodium lights above it. You stand on the footbridge for 4 minutes watching the water, and then you go home and do not sleep until almost 3 in the morning. 3 months pass. The Maritime Star claim closes. $14 million moves through a reinsurance chain to an account in Limassol, Cyprus. From there, you do not know where it goes. You do not ask. You are not a financial investigator. You are not Interpol. You are not the Office of Foreign Assets Control. You are a maritime attorney, and you have a mortgage on a flat in Stoke Newington. Your mother is in a care home in Dunfermline that costs £6,000 a month, and the bonus you received in January arrived in a separate envelope from a consulting firm you have never visited, £40,000. You are not the only professional at Halcyon with this kind of file. The firm has 7 maritime attorneys. 3 of them have the same quality of stillness when certain file numbers arrive. The same careful way of closing laptops when you walk past. The same lunch habits. Always solo, always brief, always back at the desk before anyone notices they were gone. You do not discuss this. There is an etiquette to complicity, and it looks exactly like professionalism from the outside. By spring, you have two more files. The first is a cargo vessel operating under a Liberian flag, owner of record a company registered in Dubai, carrying what the manifest describes as agricultural equipment from Rostov-on-Don to a port in Libya. The claim is for seized cargo. Force majeure. You know this vessel. Not personally. You know its class. You know the route. Agricultural equipment does not travel Rostov to Libya in refrigerated containers. You have been in this industry long enough to know what travels in refrigerated containers on that route. You file the claim as submitted. The second file is smaller. A bunkering dispute. Fuel costs at Kerch. Routine, on paper. Except that Kerch is an occupied Crimea, and any financial transaction touching Crimea since 2014 is subject to EU Regulation 269/2014 and its successive amendments. Bunkering a vessel in Kerch is not a gray area. It is not ambiguous. It is a clear and documented breach of sanctions that you, as a regulated legal professional, are required under the Proceeds of Crime Act to report. You do not report it. You tell yourself it was a clerical mismatch. The bunker receipts show a port code that could be misread as Kerch, Ukraine, or Kerch, a general geographic reference. You write a memo to file documenting your analysis. The memo is good. It is lawyerly. It would survive a basic audit. You have become very good at writing memos that would survive basic audits. You have also become very good at not finishing sentences in your own head. The sentence that starts with "I am aware that" and ends with something you cannot say out loud even alone in your car. What you cannot write a memo about is the phone call you received in April, not on your work phone, on the personal mobile number that only 7 people have. The voice was the same closed door. It said your mother's address in Dunfermline, the street, the number, the color of the door. Then it said, "We are grateful for your professionalism." Then it hung up. You sat in your car in the Halcyon car park for 22 minutes. You counted them. You did not call anyone. You did not go to the police. You told yourself that nothing had been threatened, that it was a statement of gratitude, that reading it any other way was paranoia. You knew it was not paranoia. You have known since the first call that the man with the closed-door voice is not someone whose gratitude is separable from his displeasure. This is how the Vori v. Zakwan work inside legitimate structures, not through direct instruction, through implication, through information that only makes sense as a threat if you already understand the context. The context being, you know where your mother lives, and so do we. You go back to your office. You make a coffee. You open the next file. Summer comes. You take a week in Cornwall. You walk on the coast path above Newquay on a Tuesday morning with the Atlantic gray and enormous beneath you. You have not slept more than 5 hours in 3 weeks. Your appetite is wrong. You eat at strange times, too much or nothing, and food does not taste the way it used to. Your GP says it is stress. Your GP does not know what kind of stress it is. You have not told anyone. The weight of what you carry has no name you are permitted to speak aloud. You call your mother. She sounds well. She asks if you are eating. You say yes. She says you sound thin, and you almost laugh. And for 30 seconds you are a person with a mother and a view and nothing else. A walker passes you going north with a collie and says morning, and you say morning back, and it is such a complete and ordinary exchange that it makes your eyes sting in a way you cannot explain. Then your phone buzzes. A file number in a message from an address you do not recognize. You know what the file number means. You know what your reply will be. You look at the ocean for another minute. Then you put the phone away and start walking back to the car. The story is fiction, but what it describes is not. Maritime sanctions evasion costs the global economy an estimated $30 billion a year. Shell registry chains running through Malta, the BVI, and Cyprus are documented extensively by the Financial Action Task Force and the UN panel of experts on Libya, North Korea, and Russia. The International Maritime Organization has flagged AIS manipulation as a systemic enforcement problem since 2019. Transponders going dark is not a technical failure. It is a documented evasion technique. P&I clubs operating under English law have faced regulatory scrutiny for claims touching sanctioned jurisdictions. The institutions that process these claims are not passive. They are participants. The professionals who process these claims are real. The moral calculations they make are real. The phone calls that make certain decisions feel inevitable are real. Somewhere right now, A maritime attorney in a glass building in a respectable city is reading a bill of lading that does not match a satellite image and deciding whether the discrepancy is their problem. They tell themselves they are not the last line of defense. They are right that they are not the last line. They are wrong that this means they are not a line at all. The sea is very large. The paperwork is very good. The shells within shells are registered in places no one ever visits. And the distance between complicity and crime is a memo that someone very careful has already written for you, and all you had to do was sign. Every glass building in every financial district in every respectable city contains someone making a version of the same calculation right now. The calculation looks like work. It feels like survival. The systems that enable sanctions evasion are not hidden in dark corners. They operate inside law firms, insurance syndicates, and shipping registries that publish annual reports and sponsor charitable events. The people who maintain these systems wear suits and pay taxes and collect salaries and have mortgages and mothers. They are not villains in the way films require villains to look. They are recognizable. They are ordinary. The mechanisms of sanctions evasion are not mysterious. They are procedural. They live in the gap between what is required to be checked and what is actually checked, between the letter of due diligence and the spirit of it. Every professional in the chain has a rational reason to pass the file to the next person. The surveyor surveys. The attorney advises. The underwriter underwrites. The reinsurer reinsures. No single hand holds the whole thing. And yet the whole thing exists. It moves. It pays out. It funds what it funds. The diffusion of responsibility is not an accident. It is the architecture. The attorney at the center of this story did not set out to become complicit. He set out to be good at his job. The road from competence to complicity is paved with files that almost made sense and calls that were almost routine. There is a version of this story where he reports the Kerch bunkering, where he flags the Meridian Star, where he walks into the National Crime Agency offices on Citadel Place and lays the files on a desk and says, "I think you need to see this." In that version, he loses his job. He possibly loses his flat. His mother's care costs become a problem he has to solve differently. He is frightened for a period that is difficult to quantify. He is also free. The version we told is the more common one. Not because people are evil, because the infrastructure of small decisions, each one survivable, each one deniable, adds up to something that is neither small nor survivable for the people at the other end of the money. At the other end of the money, there are weapons. There are Wagner Group logistics. There are Iranian drone components moving through intermediary jurisdictions. There are North Korean missile programs quietly funded through insurance payouts on vessels that never sank. The bill of lading is a piece of paper. The satellite image is a piece of data. The gap between them is where the actual world lives, the world that the paperwork is designed to prevent you from seeing. The man on the 14th floor knows this. He has always known this. He makes very good coffee. He reads the bill of lading a fourth time. Something in his chest pulls tighter. He opens the next file. The sea does not care about jurisdiction. It does not recognize the flags of convenience or the shell company registries or the BVI incorporation certificates. It is simply the medium through which the money moves. And the money always moves. Through Limassol, through Dubai, through the correspondent banking networks that process transactions without asking the questions that would make the transactions impossible to process. The attorneys who make this possible are not recruited through dark channels. They are promoted through normal ones. They are the best students in their law schools. They are the most reliable associates at their training firms. They are given files that almost make sense, and they are good enough to make them make sense the rest of the way. That is what their skill is used for. Not justice, not the rule of law, the completion of the paperwork. The rule of law is a system that depends on the people inside it believing in it enough to maintain it even when maintaining it costs them something. The attorney on the 14th floor stopped believing, or he never started. It is hard to know which is worse. There is no clean ending to this story because there is no clean ending to the thing it describes. The Meridian Star was not a unique event. It was a data point in a pattern that has been running for decades, and that will continue running because the incentives to maintain it are very large and the incentives to disrupt it are very small. The £40,000 bonus arrives in January in a plain white envelope. The £6,000 monthly direct debit goes out on the 3rd of each month. The math is not complicated. The math is the whole point. What would it take to change this? Mandatory beneficial ownership registries that are actually public and actually verified. Automatic sanctions screening embedded in P&I claim workflows. Personal criminal liability for compliance officers who sign off on files they know to be problematic. None of these are technically difficult. All of them are politically difficult because the people who would implement them are, in many cases, downstream beneficiaries of the system they would be disrupting. The man on the 14th floor closes the file. He stands at the window. The gherkin is still there. The coffee is still warm. The next file is already in his inbox. He does not look at it yet. He looks at the city. He looks for a long time.